Jane Hume, welcome to the program.
Thanks, David. Good to be with you.
Congratulations on your election as Deputy Leader. Is this just a change of leadership, though, or are you prepared to drive policy change that even might upset some in your own party?
David, this is a genuine change, a genuine reset for the Liberal Party, and it's a change and a reset that was necessary because we're facing an existential crisis. The Liberal Party has had its worst results since its formation in 1944. Something has to give. Australians are rightly aggrieved at the moment, and you can see why they're looking elsewhere, because they weren't finding answers in the messages and the policies and the positions that we were taking. That's why there has been a change. That's why Angus Taylor and I will lead the team to the next election to make sure that we protect Australians' standard of living, restore Australian standard of living and protect their way of life. That's what they're telling us is so important, and that's exactly what we'll do.
I want to come to where you're willing to change. Just on the mistakes, though, that you've admitted about that election, you've admitted mistakes on opposing tax cuts and work from home arrangements. Why should voters now believe that we can trust your judgment when you got those calls so wrong?
David, everybody makes mistakes, and I think if you weren't going to go through a period of reflection about what you would have changed after an election loss, well, then you're fooling yourself. Australians asked us to do that reflection, and that was writ large in the result. What's important now, though, is the future, what it is that Australians expect from a strong coalition and a Liberal Party that knows what it stands for, a Liberal Party that speaks with conviction and not with convenience, and expresses those convictions with its policy suite that reflects the values and the priorities of all Australians.
So I want to explore what change you're open to when it comes to tax. Are you open to any change in your approach to tax on the tax breaks that are there for property investors?
David, I'm not going to go into the intricacies of all policies 48 hours after a leadership change. We haven't even had a shadow cabinet meeting yet. We haven't even announced who the shadow cabinet are. But what I will say is what all Liberals know instinctively, that the Liberal Party should always be and must always be a party of lower taxes, because we know that when taxes are lower, Australians get a chance to get ahead. We know that when taxes are lower, more investment comes to our country and more people within our country invest within our country. We know when taxes are lower, the economy grows without creating inflation. That's what we need to see in this country, a restoration of our standard of living and our way of life.
As you say, you haven't yet appointed a shadow cabinet, had these discussions, but the reason I ask is yesterday you were standing alongside Angus Taylor when he made clear you would fight any change to the capital gains tax discount. Is that a captain's call, or is that something that you'll come back to consider?
I think that discussion has been had in the party room for some months. We've known this was coming from Labor, that they're reaching back into the grab bag of higher tax policies that Bill Shorten took to a previous election that he lost. We know that Labor love to raise taxes, that they will always come after your money when they run out of theirs, and that's why we're going to oppose an increase on the capital gains tax to residential houses. Now, there's a good reason for this.
Sorry, that was already discussed in the party room.
You create less of us.
No, okay, sorry to interrupt.
Was this discussed by colleagues
already?
Yes.
That decision was taken under Susan Lee's leadership.
This has been an issue that has been ongoing for some time, whether it be changes to negative gearing, whether it be changes to capital gains tax. And Liberals know instinctively when we talk to each other that we are a party of lower taxes, and that if you tax something, there is less of it. If you tax residential housing, there will be less of it. That would be a disaster. No one has yet come out and demonstrated that a wholesale change to capital gains tax on residential housing will create more houses or provide more rental opportunities for rental houses for those that are yet to purchase their first home.
Okay, so no
that
change.
That would be a disaster.
Okay.
Now, just yesterday, David, so just yesterday, I was speaking to a builder down in Goulburn who was saying to me that 2 years ago he was doing 20 house and land packages per year. Last year he did 2. We know that houses are not being built at a rate fast enough in Australia to keep up with our growth. This is a real problem because that's part of the Great Australian Dream. We want to restore that Great Australian Dream. If you tax it, there will be less houses, fewer houses, not more houses.
Okay, so no change in your position on tax breaks for property investment. Are you at least open to any bold tax reform that might create winners or losers, or will you keep playing it safe on tax?
Well, I think more of the same clearly isn't good enough. Our economy is not growing at a fast enough rate. Australians are feeling that every single day. We're now seeing even the slightest increase in demand turn into inflationary pressures. And that's because we simply haven't got the productivity that is going to drive growth without inflation. That will certainly be something that I want to focus on, because without increased productivity, Australian standard of living will continue to go backwards, as it has done under this government just over the last 4 years. Our standard of living has gone back around 10%. And I know you've heard me say it before, but it's entirely true. If Australians are feeling poorer, it's not all in their heads. They in fact are poorer than they were 4 years ago. Now that has to turn around. Australians deserve to have that hope and optimism that used to be embedded in our economy and in our society, and that's been sucked, the life's been sucked out of them.
Okay.
It's on us now to demonstrate that we can put forward a policy agenda that will restore that hope, that optimism, so that people know that the chances of their family being better off next year than they were last year is much higher.
Okay, it's a question of how you do it though. There's another big tax idea out there that Pauline Hanson supports at one end, the unions are pushing on the other, and that's taxing gas exports a whole lot more. Is that, and that could free up, or that could create revenue that you could help working Australians with lower taxes. Is that idea something you're open to?
Well, as I said, instinctively we will always be a party of lower taxes, because if you tax something, there is less of it. But energy policy is certainly somewhere that we need to put our focus, because energy prices have gone up around 38% under this Labor government. And at the same time, we're getting forecasts suggesting that they're going to go up by around 24% more just in the next 12 months alone.
Okay.
No wonder our industries are suffering and closing down around us.
Sorry, the question was about taxing gas exports. You are open to increasing that tax?
We are always open to lowering taxes. We don't want to see taxes increased. But energy is going to be a really important part of that conversation. Right. Making sure that we have energy abundance in Australia, increasing supply of energy to lower prices of energy is profoundly important.
Does that mean lower taxes for gas producers?
No, I'm not making policy on the run on Sunday morning, 48 hours after I've become Deputy Leader. David, I'm sure that is not an enormous surprise.
I'm just trying to tease out where you're willing to change.
Liberals instinctively, and certainly Angus Taylor and I are instinctively will always say lower taxes are better than higher taxes, and they're better for all Australians. But energy abundance is what is going to bring energy prices down. Okay,
a big issue for a lot of families, childcare, and you and Angus Taylor on Friday did touch on this, ruling out support for universal childcare and supporting more choice. Should parents receive a taxpayer subsidy for using a nanny? Is that what you're talking about?
Again, I'm not going to be talking about specific policies on air 48 hours after I've been appointed the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party, before we've even had our first shadow cabinet meeting. But I think it's pretty obvious, isn't it, that childcare as it isn't working for working Australians. It isn't working because it's costing around $16 billion a year to taxpayers. At the same time, we're subsidising both the workers and the users of childcare. No wonder it's becoming so out of reach for every Australian. We want to make sure that we have a system that not only makes sure that families that want to return to the workplace and have their children cared for have that opportunity to do so, but they should also have a choice as to how they go about doing that. I think that that's a pretty obvious response.
If you're broadening the subsidies, though, that could cost a lot more, couldn't it?
That's not what I'm saying, and that's not what I'm saying at all. I do think, though, that Australians deserve a choice as to how they have their children cared for while they go back to work. Because we want Australians, and particularly women, to have that opportunity to participate fully in the economy and participate fully in society. And we also want to make sure that we have quality childcare that makes sure our children have the best start in life. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there is a one-size-fits-all approach. That's the way to deal with that.
You mentioned energy. It was only a few months ago you were one of those who lost the battle inside the Liberal Party when it came to dumping the net zero target. You argued the electorate had already made its mind up on this and that ditching net zero would be a gift to Labor, as you put it. Has your view changed on that?
The party room has decided what our energy direction is going to be. We're going to focus on bringing prices down for all Australians because the policy that Labor has brought forward is holding our economy back. We won't be re-prosecuting that case in the party room. There is no reason why we cannot create more energy, an increased supply of energy to bring those prices down, as well as look after our environment and reduce emissions.
Do you need some sort of policy, though, on climate change to bring down emissions?
Well, if people were open-minded to the idea of lifting the moratorium on nuclear energy, which is a bill that I brought forward as a backbencher, so that we can have a zero emissions technology introduced into our country, as every other developed nation has either done or is in the process of doing, well, then that would add to that energy abundance that would bring prices down over time.
So nuclear is the answer to climate change?
That's not what I said, that's what you said,
no,
David.
I'm just asking what your climate policy is, and you talked about nuclear. Is there anything beyond nuclear to bring emissions down? David, I'm not announcing policy 48 hours after having been elected Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party before our first shadow cabinet meeting, but what I will say is it's absolutely crazy to have an ideological approach towards energy because it's energy that drives our economy. We want to see our economy flourish and thrive so that all Australians can see better days ahead. For voters, though, who've gone to the Teals, do you need some sort of policy offering to win them back?
There is no doubt that caring for our environment, looking after our oceans, looking after our soil, looking after our water is profoundly important. And reducing emissions is a part of that, but it's not the only thing that's important to Australians. What's important to Australians is an opportunity that they can see to get ahead, that they can see to look after themselves, to look after their families, to restore that optimism to what it is that they do every single day. That's what Angus Taylor and I are focused on.
One thing Angus Taylor has been talking a lot about over the last 48 hours is immigration. He wants to protect our way of life. What values aren't currently protected with the existing citizenship test?
Well, I think that we can safely say that over the last few years we've seen our immigration poorly managed. It's run out of control. Around 500,000 people coming to the country per year has put pressure on our services, pressure on our health system, pressure on our infrastructure, on our roads, and certainly pressure on housing as well. A reset on immigration is profoundly important. We want to see a lower number of people come to our country, but we also want to raise the standards. Now, what that looks like, I'm not going to get into the details today. But I think all Australians know that if you come here, coming to Australia, living in Australia is one of the greatest gifts that could ever be given to anybody, which is why we want to make sure that the people that come here share our beliefs, share our respect for the rule of law and for democracy. And if you don't, well, then the door should be shut. We want people here that are going to contribute, as generations of migrants have done in the past.
But again,
it's about a reset. It's not about a radical.
Yeah, sorry. When you talk about these values, the current citizenship test already has questions that must be passed on democratic beliefs, rights, liberties, the rule of law, values of freedom, respect and equality. Is that not enough? What's missing here at the moment?
Well, it's a good question. I have to say, having gone to a number of citizenship ceremonies over the years, and most recently on Australia Day, there's nothing that pleases me more than seeing people adopt Australia as their home and prescribing to those core beliefs, to those freedoms, to choice, to personal responsibility, to an obligation to make our country better. But somewhere, something is failing, and I think that we can see that. All Australians can see that. So the way to reinforce it, again, that's a policy decision for another day after I have met with the Shadow Cabinet and spoken about this with all of my colleagues. But Australians are telling this on the street every single day. They love living here, but they want to protect our way of life as well as restore our standard of living.
And on the numbers, the coalition went to the election promising to reduce the net overseas migration by 100,000. Do you think we need more or fewer skilled workers in Australia?
Well, we know that skilled workers have added so much to our way of life. They've contributed so much to our society and to our economy. We know we need skilled migrants. This is not about shutting the door to everybody. That's a simple slogan for parties of grievance. What we want to do is make sure we have a well-managed migration program that brings in the skills that we need, but we do need to lower the number and allow our infrastructure, our healthcare, our roads and our housing to have a breather, to catch up to where we are, because Labor have allowed their immigration policy to run out of control, and all Australians are paying the price. Immigration should be something that raises our standard of living, and unfortunately it's not. At the moment, it's changing our way of life. We don't want to see that. We want to see immigrants that come to our country welcomed to our country because they adopt our core values and they contribute to our society and our economy.
Just a few other quick questions. Deputy leaders usually get to choose their portfolio. What will you choose?
I won't spoil the surprise. I think I'll let the leader do his announcement, of the Shadow Cabinet and all of those positions in due course. But what I will say is I am particularly interested in making sure that I have an opportunity to talk about what's important to me, which is making sure that we have a far more productive economy, that we can grow the pie for everybody. Because let's face it, what's happened in the last few years is that people have moved to the populist left and to the populist right because they feel that they are being left behind. Both the populist left and the populist right do not have the solutions. Only a Liberal Party who wants to see the pie grow, who wants to make sure that every Australian has the opportunity to get ahead, that they can see that next year is going to be better than the last. Only the Liberal Party only coalition has the answers to their problems. That's the message that Angus Taylor and I want to deliver to all Australians.
A big focus on productivity. That's a tease as to where you might land in your portfolio. Look, has the coalition, a new coalition agreement between the leaders been settled yet? And when will those suspended nationals return to the Shadow Ministry?
Yeah, it's a bit early for that, David, I have to admit. I know that Angus and David Littleproud have already had conversations, which is really important. They have known each other for a very long time and worked together very closely indeed. But again, I'll leave those conversations to later once the Shadow Cabinet has been appointed. And
on the by-election that's coming in Susan Lee's seat of Farrer, she's held the seat for more than 20 years. Would you rather the Nationals not run in the seat?
No, look, this is all a conversation for party organisations. One of the things about being a member of the Liberal Party is that it's Liberal Party members that get to choose who runs for the Liberal Party in any particular seat.
Would you like to see a woman selected for the Liberals?
It's going to be tough. I would like to see many more women pre-selected for the Liberals right across the country, as they were at the last election, unfortunately, because the electoral tide worked so badly against us. Those incredibly talented women, and there were droves of them, didn't get up. In Farrer, when you have the retirement of a popular local member, it's always going to be a tough ask, but that will be a conversation that both our leaders and our organisations must have. And
just finally, we mentioned Charlotte Mortlock, the director of the Hilmer Network, has quit the party and the Hilmer Network. What's the significance of that, do you think?
Oh, it is significant. Charlotte has been a great contributor and a great voice for women that hold Liberal values. And I think that this is a really sad moment. I hope that the Hilmer's network continues on. Sometimes when you have a big personality like Charlotte at the helm of an organisation that's pushing for change within a party, and that person leaves or moves on, the organisation or that she has built sometimes disappears with her. I hope that that is not the case, because I think that there is a real opportunity for women's voices in the Liberal Party, and it's on us to make sure that we demonstrate to Australian women that the Liberal Party is the place for them, that we represent their hopes their dreams and their aspirations. That's certainly what my aim will be over the next coming weeks, months, years, and that's certainly what we're going to take to the next election.
Deputy Liberal Leader Jane Hume, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, David.